Welcome, people. So we are finally here to the most awaited and the most requested podcast of ChillTox presents ChillTox. Uh, we have here with us to talk about potatoes, the one and the only, the chef of destruction, aka Ashish Beshra. Welcome, Chef Bhai. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
A very very good afternoon to everybody. आपको भी हमारे प्यारे दर्शकों को भी and everybody watching us wherever you are. Please stay safe. All the good wishes for your forthcoming days. People who are gonna appear for exams, all the best wishes. Just one
Kiss Day
small thing.
What about the Kiss Day people, guys? So this is a Kiss Day. We are recording this on Kiss Day, so we have to ask.
All the hugs and kisses to everybody near and dear, and even especially to those people who are not your near and dear ones, but it doesn't cost much to give a hug and a kiss to anybody. But please maintain social distancing in these times of corona.
Only flying kisses, guys. Only flying kisses.
Only flying
no
kisses.
No lip to lip contact.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, chef, before we start with our absolute love of the day, potatoes, I would love our audiences to know a little bit about you. Do tell us what you are doing right now, what all things you have done, and your voyages across the seas. Over to you, Chef.
All right. Let me introduce myself by saying good afternoon to everybody once again, especially to you, ChillTox, and all our viewers. My name is Ashish Beshra. I am from a very, very small town called Asansol in West Bengal, near Kolkata. I was born and brought up there. Did my studies, completed all over actually West Bengal because of the nature of my father's job. Then did my culinary studies in culinary arts, joined and worked for properties, 5-star properties as Hyatt, ITC, Fortune. Then I went abroad for like 12 years to 15 years of my life, working at sea in cruise companies. Then worked as executive chef back in land. Then I started something very, very close to my heart, a very, very close venture. It's called nautilushealthybites.in. It is an initiative about chocolates, quite interesting, and handcrafted chocolates.
So guys, for those of you who want to get more into nautilus.in, you'll get the link description. This link is down in the description below. You guys can go and check out. I'll ask Chef to please continue about the venture, and just wanted to make sure you guys can get to what Chef is talking about. So please tell us a little bit more about Nautilos and what things you're trying to achieve out of that.
Nautilus came into my mind when actually during Corona times, when people were struggling with their jobs, keeping their jobs, things like that. Me being me, I ventured onto, started thinking on different lines. What I wanted to do is present people or the community with such an option which they could eat themselves, share with everybody else without compromising their health in any sort of way. So that was something which I wanted to do when I came back to India this December. I've been not to blow my own trumpet, I have been working 24 hours a day practically.
That is not in no way any blowing of any trumpets. That is in no way blowing of any trumpets. We have been a witness. I have been a witness of the hard work Chef has been going through. So, but before coming to the nation, which nations you have touched upon during your voyages through the seas, and which have been your favorite ones? I know you can't be absolute about it, but on a relative scale, which have been your favorite nations to go?
Well, first of all, very close to my motherland. Not taking apart the fact that I have spent around 15 years of my life away from it. But as per, sometimes me and ChillTox, we joke amongst ourselves that I'm half Filipino. Well, there is a reason behind it. My extended family, my wife and my child, they are Filipinos. Well, do not make this video leak out in so-called ways. Otherwise, I would be in trouble with authorities. Well, jokes apart, throughout the years of my voyages across the world, I have been visiting many places, Europe, Asian countries, South American countries, most of them, gone around the globe around twice. So it's been quite a journey, and at the very center, at the very in the foundation of it, I am a seafarer, and being a child of the sea, as so called as to say, the sea is absolutely close to me. It was a fun ride, absolutely beautiful. Taught me many things. First, about myself. Secondly, about the people around the world. And actually, I found out that people around the world are not so dissimilar as we make them out to be.
Yeah. That's true. So, having been to so many countries and having learned from the culinary art of so many countries, before we go to the day's topic of our love, that is potatoes, which cuisines you would say are nearest and dearest to your tongue and your heart?
If that's the question about being very close to me, I would say Indian cuisine, because first of all, I'm an Indian. I have been eating that since I have been, born, and I was growing up back here in India. Indian culinary arts, to be honest with you, is one of the toughest culinary arts to master across the globe. I mean, people talk about French cuisine, people talk about European cuisine, this and that, but amongst us Asians and all over the world, Indian culinary arts is one of the toughest to master, because the sheer amount of ingredients which we use, and we are very true to what we use. We do not try to mix and match too much. We try to keep the originality of it. The beautiful part of having such a diverse cuisine in India is, every 50 kilometers you go, the ingredients remain the same, but the cuisine changes. Sometimes even the ingredients changes. So, taking all these things into consideration, it is a wonderful place to be, culinary wise.
But I would interject. You have a motherland bias regarding this, right? So you have to name your favorite cuisine other than your motherland. You can't have that. So of course, you would love your motherland cuisine. Although I know that Indian cuisine is a bit overwhelming over others, but still, we'll discount that fact. But we'll look for any other cuisines other than Indian.
Okay. For that, let me name a few. Thai cuisine is very close to my heart. They like us, they also share their love for spiciness. But let me just elaborate on this fact. Spiciness doesn't always equal to hotness. Spiciness is the beautiful use of various spices which you use to cook in our food. Secondly, if you go abroad, out of Asia, Italian cuisine is very close to my heart, for the sheer fact that they stay very true to their soil. They use products from their land, do not manipulate it too much, and they try to have it in their own raw form. So, taking into consideration, it's quite close to my heart.
So, what would you tell the fitness freaks who have been blabbering about potatoes not being an healthy source of carbs, and how do we go about nullifying the notion of potatoes being an unhealthy food category, especially in the Indian fitness market right now?
Well, first of all, I am not saying that you listen to everybody who's preaching, not even to us. but check your facts. Pardon me. The first thing is that, when I talk about keeping an originality for a dish, you should look at what is the root ingredient of the dish and what additions are you making to the dish so as to make it as per your taste like. For example, the mashed potatoes, so-called mashed potatoes, or the aloo bharta, which we call here in Bengal, or the aloo ka chokha, which we call in India, they are served in their purest form. I mean, you just take potatoes, boil them up, add a few ingredients like chop onion, chop chilies, a little bit of salt and pepper, and you're good to go. But if you go to the Western countries, you will find the mashed potatoes being made over there is totally different. What they do is they boil potatoes, sieve it, and they add double cream. They add sometimes cheese and whatnot, and butter, of course. So, taking into consideration all those facts, the potato itself will not give you fat in your body, so as to say. If one of the few other times when me and ChillTox were talking about it, do you remember I said potatoes literally build up a civilization?
Yeah, correct.
I mean, looking into history, I'm a very big history buff, because one of my mentors, one of a very famous person, I will not name him due to political reasons. Many would disagree with me. He said, the person who doesn't know his history cannot make his future.
True story. True story always.
So, taking into consideration all those facts, if you look back how the potatoes came into existence, they were first introduced to the world through Incas, right, around 5,000 to 8,000 BC. And they cultivated potatoes, and it was, it traveled throughout the world using trade routes set up by various seafarers. I mean, shout out to all the seafarers, all my brothers and sisters working in the sea. You guys make the world go around. Then, when we used to consider potatoes as, a cheap source of food. Because if you take out the history of the world, meat was not available to everybody. The other vegetables were not available to everybody. So what potatoes did was, when they were introduced in a civilization, they helped to feed the people, the common people who are still the backbone of the society. We can take an example of this. ChillTox might add into my point being the Great Irish Famine. The Great Hunger, as it is called. I was reading through some of the articles circling around. It had such a huge impact in the society that even after so long, when Mr. Tony Blair was the head of state in UK of England, he had apologized actually to the people of Ireland for their mishandling of the situation back during the Irish famine.
Correct. And like it was till that point in history, it was like unheard of that a particular crop would affect a whole economy, a whole ecosystem of agriculture and economy, and the interplay like that. And of course, Tony Blair, and of course, till now they have such issues, unresolved issues still going on, especially after Brexit, which has exacerbated such issues. You might have heard about Britain capturing the fishermen of other countries and whatnot, and Ireland wants a no backstop border. I think all of this stems from the Irish potato famine and their experiences of Britain handling the Irish potato famine, I guess. Right?
Yes, absolutely true. You see, when people say, that a person is known by the company he keeps, I am very, very proud to be associated with a gentleman like ChillTox. We learn each other. We learn a lot from each other. To be honest with you, yes, we learn a lot from each other. So guys.
Always.
And people whoever you are watching, try to learn every day. It doesn't matter what small thing you come across, but always check your facts.
Yeah, always do. So this is one thing I wanted to have a disclaimer before we started our discussions. The single point thing is we are of course we are discussing a little bit of tidbits and trivia and facts about it, and our aim has been to educate the people about whatever topics we choose. But I think one of those things has been which I wanted to talk about is please move away from the culture of listening to any and everybody and like accepting it at the face value. So whatever we are talking about, please go and research about it yourselves. Please go about thinking about yourselves and examine it through the lenses of rationality, and then only accept it as a fact. Okay, so moving on, can we speak a little bit about the origins of potatoes, right? As you have clearly previously explained that this all of this started with the Incas, right? And so South American origins of potatoes is very well known, I would say. So please elaborate a little bit on that. I'd request how South America has taken to potatoes, and what has been the journey from South America to maybe Europe and the other nations.
All right. So speaking of journey, let us indulge a little bit about the history of potatoes impacting our Indian culture, right?
Okay.
As we stated earlier, potatoes were not indigenous to India itself. We had other kind of tubers, and now I'll point out something which might trigger a lot of so-called vegans, vegetarians, and other strata of the society.
We always are triggered. That's the secret, chef. We are always triggered.
Well, the sweet potato which we eat nowadays is not actually a potato which you're eating. It is not a tuber. Yeah. It is a root. Speaking of which, every root vegetable can be a tuber, but all tubers cannot be a root vegetable.
Vegetables, yeah. Not vice versa.
Or vice versa. So speaking on that, we had like other tubers being used in our country. Talk about yams, talk about tapioca, and many others, to name a few. But when potatoes were introduced back in our country, as it did with other countries and civilizations, what it did was it started feeding the middle class or the lower strata of the society, which are still the backbone of the society. As I mentioned earlier, the expensive cuts of meat, expensive fruits or vegetables, they were not available to everybody. But what potato did, as it did was it provided a cheap source of meal to people who couldn't afford it, but still needed that energy which the food provides to work, to build a nation.
So not only so, let me clarify a little bit. So the jobs which were given to Indians, or the jobs we took on at that point of time, were more physical oriented and less of service oriented. So the physical labor, whatever state of society you have been, I'm not talking only about the farmers and stuff. Whatever state of society you were in, if you were an Indian, you were doing physical labor, and physical labor required huge amounts of carbs getting into your body. And as Chef rightly pointed out, meats were a royalty at that point of time. They were expensive cuts, and maybe in some portions of society they would use the inexpensive cuts. But for most population, the dietary requirements had to be fulfilled, and I think potatoes took over from the other tubers and other yams and stuff, right?
Yes. We very happily, as some of the millennials would say. Well, I'm not a millennial, sorry. Some of the millennials would say,
boomer. You are a boomer.
Well, I hold the title of the resident uncle in the channel of ChillTox. So I'm quite proud. I'm actually quite proud of being that one of my accomplishments. Speaking of that, we try to undermine the value of a very simple food. But when you divulge deep into that, when you take into consideration where has it come from and what it has done to your society, you might find hidden gems all over.
True.
So, speaking of Indian history, it happened with that. If we take it across the oceans, sorry, I keep talking about oceans because, as I said, at the heart of myself, there is a seafarer spending so many years, at sea. When Irish, they got their hands into potatoes, even like the Russians at that time, what they did was like, okay, beta, अब तो मैं बताता हूँ इसका मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ. So they they even invented their own brand of alcohol used potatoes. So
and let me clarify, a very 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 popular brand of alcohol in this day and age.
Yes.
And please tell our viewers what it is.
I'm sorry, say again.
Please tell our viewers what the brand is.
Well, I won't be mentioning any sort of brands because we are not yet
the type of drinks.
I hope guys watching, please do sponsor ChillTox so that you get a good branding.
Please, guys, you guys can see how much dearly we need our sponsors. That we are not giving out information due to lack of sponsors. Yes, so guys, do check it out and do sponsor us. No, so we can divulge the drink, right? We can at least, because Russians perfected the drink, and I think we can divulge it, right?
Yes,
I'll put up a sponsored. I'll put up a sponsor kind of image. I have no issues with
so
putting up a.
Generally speaking, as Russians have their vodka coming straight out of potatoes, Irish had their whiskey. And when you make whiskey, any kind of distilled alcohol needs to be fermented first. Oh yes. So, guys, whoever watching,
if you're watching, please sponsor us if you guys are watching. Yes.
So
yeah, please continue. Sorry.
Certainly. So when Irish got their hands on potatoes, they had their own brand of whiskey or other kinds of alcohol they were making. Even the so-called moonshine. Kids under 18, if you are listening, please do not drink and drive.
So it's 21 in India, right? So you have to tell them, kids under 21, you guys can't drink first of all, and if you even if you get your hands on moonshine, please don't drink and drive.
Never drink and drive. Always remember, there's somebody waiting for you in the house.
Even if nobody's waiting for you, I would say please don't drink and drive. It's fine. It's fine that if you're going to an empty house, please don't drink and drive. And so
taking all this, can you imagine the level of diversity in a food culture or a civilization a pure, simple, humble potato can provide? Right from feeding
this was our next question. This was my next question. So potatoes came with the advent of Europeans to India. Okay, nobody can deny this fact. So before that, we have had a lot of dishes, right? And we have had, as you have already mentioned, we have had a lot of similar tubers which were actively being used during in our food and in our cultures. So what I would ask is a very interesting question. Which are those, a few of those food items must have carried on till now, right? So which were those food items which were prevalent at that point of time in a very different shape and a very different form, and they got transformed and influenced greatly by potatoes? One of those, by the way, I want to flex a little bit. One of those, of course, is our very own samosa, But
Yes.
otherwise, chef will delve deeper into the dishes which we are going to talk about.
So before me and ChillTox, we share a very common love of astronomy. Let me correct myself
astronomy.
if I say not astronomy.
Correct. No, it's astronomy is fine. Yeah.
Yes, not astrology. Nowadays being the days of being politically correct is very important.
So it's upon us. Yes, it's upon us. It's upon us. You can't be like, we don't want to get cancelled. So yes. Samosa is a universal uniter, I would say. So please don't cancel us, guys. Please go ahead, Chef. I was interjecting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, that's all right. Before the advent of potatoes, all the other tubers were having a very quiet life. Like yams, even you talk about tapioca, or you talk about daikon, or even like, for example, celeriac. They were having a very quiet life. But as the potato came into the picture, it was like a meteoric rise. Because there were a few reasons why this came into being. One of them being the easy ways and methods by which it could cultivate the various climates it could be into or survive into. So one of my favorites, apart from potatoes, if you talk about there is a very beautiful pickle which is made out of yams. I mean,
So what do we call it? What do we call it? Do you know the name of that?
Well, nowadays during this era of fusion food, we do not tend to name a particular dish, but we try to describe it. As sometimes ChillTox jokes around with me, it's like you charge a dish as per the description, not as per the.
So let me expand on it. So what I have an issue with chefs like Chef of Destruction is they would charge for mere sprinkles or some fused water or something, some water fused with some spinach or something, and they would call it an exclusive dish, and they would charge exorbitantly. I appreciate the art behind it. I appreciate this is why people pay for paintings, because you cannot take it on the face value. But come on, what is happening? Well, what is happening, chef? We need a revolution.
All right, let me defend my fellow chefs and my. Let me come on a defensive mode and tell you. Well, as I was saying, there is a beautiful pickle which can be made out of yams. It is such a versatile vegetable. You can make it into a pure vegetable curry. You can use it for pickling. You can make it into a dish which adds some body to the dish. We as chefs, sometimes we tend to get haywire. It is human nature. Some of us accept it, but see.
Yeah. It's like Chena Char, and it's like one of the best sellers of whatever site I've taken it from. So
it is a beautiful one.
Guys, do check it out. Yeah.
So as per I was defending my fellow brethren, we actually out of all these experiments we conduct, because food is our life, not metaphorically speaking, but literally speaking sometimes. So it takes a little bit of effort. Like, for example, speaking on the topic of potatoes, you find various potatoes, world famous potatoes in the market, like russet potatoes, fingerling potatoes, Idaho potatoes. To be a potato kind or a variety which can be circulated in the market, a new variety of potato requires at least 20 years to be researched upon, to be grown upon, to be conducted upon. So speaking on that, coming back to the point I was making about yams, even if you call celeriac is a root. tends to give a beautiful flavor when you make it into a mash. Oh yes.
So I made up a potato within moments. I did not take 20 years to make it. I have a skin and I'm a potato. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Please
Yes.
continue with Cereliac. Please continue with Cereliac. I'm sorry.
So celeriac, like for us Asians, vegetables are considered to be the main dish of some of our food cultures. You go to down south sometimes, they have beautiful preparation of vegetables known as avial down south. Potato toku is very very famous. You can actually swap potatoes with tapioca in that dish if you want to, although it would be an abomination to do so. Because sometimes me and ChillTox, we discuss about the number of variations of samosas because
because chef has been throughout the world and I live in Ahmedabad. That's why. No other reason, but that's why.
That's not the point being. The point being is we, as a typical Bengali, we have a similar share of love about samosas, and some things, as we say, if it is perfect, do not break it. So I would rather, not attack my fellow brethren, because they keep putting whatnot in the samosas.
Let me trigger you guys a little bit. I need to trigger you guys because I get triggered about this a lot. So I need you guys to get triggered a bit. This, my brethren, my fellow YouTubers, is something which Ahmedabadis can only invent. This is a fucking cheese samosa. This is an abomination. Please go to hell. Please die in the 8th fucking ring of hell or whatever. Please don't have it. Please don't try to experience it. Please don't encourage it at all. So, but chef, coming back to samosa, samosas originally were not potato based, right? Please delve some light on it. How does a sambusa from Persia come to India and become a samosa? And the sheer variety of samosas right there in West Bengal itself. Because I have had like 3 or 4 kinds of samosas, yes?
As taking up the mantle from as ChillTox was talking about, originally samosas are not from India; they are from Persia.
Yeah.
They had because of the type of food being produced there, the type of meats they were using, they had a different kind of stuffing altogether. So it is not only my brethren who were doing all kind of experiments; it has been up to since the past century. So
this I agree that the change is the only constant in life, right? So I appreciate that whoever was cooking always wanted to change what they were cooking, right? So this is, by the way, guys, sambusa from Persia, in its current form, and it's of course completely meat based and mostly pork or beef based. So please continue and please tell us about all the Bengali samosas which you know and which we have had in our childhood, right? So I remember one of those was mocha samosa. I think some kathal samosa and whatnot. Please tell him. You must be knowing a little bit more about it.
For the people who do not know what is a mocha is banana flowers. What the hell are these two guys up to? But honestly speaking, it is a delicacy here in Bengal.
Correct.
It is a delicacy.
It has to be. Like you would never be fed mocha samosa until and unless you are somebody special in the eyes of the cook. You would never be.
So
I have a photograph of the same. I think
amongst all the siblings you have, you should be the favorite one if somebody is making a mocha samosa for you.
Correct. And let me pull up an image of the fruit itself so that people get some point of view. But you can keep continuing talking about mocha, then meat samosas which are available in West Bengal, and of course Bangladesh. Both of those places. I think even in Pakistan right now you'll get keema samosa and whatnot, right? So even right in Gujarat, not only south. I live in Gujarat. Gujarat in Ahmedabad was a settlement of Persian rulers, right? Right here, keema samosa is a fad although Gujarat is known to be vegetarian, but in those pockets where you get non-vegetarian dishes, keema samosa is an absolute must, So
Yes.
yeah, samosas cannot be divorced from their non-vegetarian origins. But yeah, potatoes ruled them, and I think chef will carry on with. So this is, guys, the banana fruit or the flower which chef was talking about. So these things are cut into in diced, I would say, and put into samosas, and you wouldn't believe how absolutely amazing they are. So please
Yes,
carry on with the non-vegetarian samosa, chef.
before even cutting a banana flower, let me just interject in between. It takes quite a bit of effort to clean them, because there is a very thick stalk in between the flowers. You need to pick it up one by one with your hands. It's quite labor intensive, and as ChillTox mentioned, if you're not a favorite son or the favorite son-in-law or so and so forth of a family, nobody's gonna make it for you. So
nobody does.
Even at the sheer face of it, the samosa, as we speak, if you travel around the country, you will be just taken aback by the sheer number of ways they hold a samosa, man.
Correct. Yes.
In Bengal, we do it differently. You go down south, they do it differently. From Persia, where it is originated, they do it differently.
In UP, if you don't have a bathak on a samosa, you don't know how to make a samosa, right? Like you have to have that bathak thing.
Absolutely. Bathak, you need to have that. But when samosas came to our country, as potatoes were introduced as a filling inside them, I mean, as per any other fields, potatoes saw a meteorological rise in the taste and preferences of people. I mean, in Bengal, the pure simplicity of having a boiled and a mildly spiced potato along with some peanuts is considered to be the purest form of samosa you can find in West Bengal. And that.
So please tell, how did the potato end up in the biryanis of Bengal? What is that story?
Well, that conversation will be someday else, because let me not go away from the love of our lives, that is aloo samosa, the potato samosa.
Yeah.
Because if there is no adda which is complete without a chai and a samosa, there is no party, nothing would be complete. If you go to anybody's house, the first thing they'll give you is samosa. The second thing they'll give you is something sweet.
Yeah. Necessarily. That is like these two are the necessities in a Bengali household if you're visiting.
Correct.
Yeah. So do visit any of the Bengali friends you have, or girlfriends or boyfriends.
Yes. So when samosas were introduced as a filling, when the potatoes were introduced as a filling for samosas, what they did was, as it came originally from Persia, as I said earlier, they never had the appeal to the lower middle class or the lower strata of the society. So as it happened, as food evolved, they introduced potatoes inside a samosa, as per the availability of the sheer availability of the vegetable. So when they had that, well, it quite became a trend. It still is. And coming back to the point which ChillTox was making, like how were potatoes introduced into the biryani, the world famous biryani of West Bengal. Let me tell you, out of all the biryanis and all the various methods you can have to prepare a biryani.
Trigger warning, guys. Biryani was incoming.
Potato in a biryani is a must, as for me. I mean,
please like the video. Please don't downvote it. Hyderabadis, please don't downvote it. We appreciate your biryani as well. But of course, what he says is correct, because the potato, it meshes into the rice, and but guys, do like the video, man. Don't hate on us. for this.
No. We are looking for sponsors. Although we are quite.
Biryani by kilo. If you're listening to us, we are up for sponsors.
Oh yes. As per Bengal was ruled by Nawabs at that time, right?
Mughal
Nawabs. So they had their own quirks of having vegetables being introduced into their food. But as per all the other vegetables being used in any kind of food, potatoes found a very, very special place because first of all, it was very easily available. If you not divulging into too much of history, because that would be a history lesson. The Nawab at that time of Bengal was so-called ejected from his state and had to live in a certain facility which was not suited aptly to his reputation.
Stature. Stature
or reputation. Yes. So his loyal cook or the chef. Shout out to all the chefs again.
Please like the stream, all the chefs, guys.
So
I'm a streamer, by the way, guys. I'm a streamer, so I'm hard of this. I've had this habit, and it's a very, very long learned habit of always seeking likes. So please don't mind this happening in between a podcast as well. So please continue, sir.
So what he did was to make his king happy. He had an idea of putting introducing potatoes in a biryani. And if you taste biryani of various states, the Bengal biryani has the least number of spices.
Yeah, true. So the basic flavor, they play on the basic flavors always.
Yes, as I said, we try to keep things as original as possible. And thankfully, it caught on, and even after such an epoch of civilization, it's still prevalent and it's still loved by everybody.
Yeah. Still one of the contenders of best biryani in India, right? Or one of the contenders. Yes. We'll fight over it, but we have this as one of the contenders. But this brings us to one thing that, of course, and undoubtedly, potatoes have influenced our culture, right? Yes. It has influenced our economies as well. And not only ours, the world has seen through its different experiences how much potatoes have influenced our economies. Can you start with the Irish example? And maybe I pull up one of the Indian examples, a very recent and a topical example, which you guys would find funny. So, Chef, please talk about Irish example. I'll come to the Indian example in a moment.
Sure. Pardon me. As I was saying before earlier in the stream that during the time when Ireland was introduced to potatoes, they served as being the staple food of the people. At that time, people should always remember this fact that at that time, the living to death ratio was not same.
Yeah.
All right.
Death ratios were higher, right?
Yes. During that time, mortality rate was higher due to the fact that people were not having access to so much of medicines as in modern times. Food was not as in we have today. So what potatoes did was it started feeding the lower and the middle class of the strata of the society, and due to that fact, there was a boom in the population of a country.
And so was the boom in demand of potatoes, right? That is why all the agriculturists, they shifted to potato cultivation, and the diversity in the agriculture came to a halt. And once there was this potato famine, some disease, it took over all the potato crops, and Ireland actually fell to potato famine, which was we're talking about right now. But very interestingly, potato still features in India's discourse day in and day out. We might miss it sometimes, but this is what we have seen very recently. And what can I say? I think very, very, very relevant and topical always. And I don't think we can make vodka out of potatoes in UP's climate and temperature. But the one thing I wanted to tell you guys was like this is still topical, and you must have like from Lalu Yadav's campaign of Jab Tak Rahega Samosa Mein Aloo to till this date Akhilesh Yadav using potatoes. How do you think potato came to rule the heart of Indians, right? Because this was introduced as a food of the masses, like the lower strata. It was never for the Nawabs. But right now, it rules the Indian hierarchy of classes and castes and everything. So how did that happen? Why is this alien taste so much palatable to Indian diet, right? Because we could not accept tofu. We have not accepted a lot of things which came to India, but we as Indians took to potatoes like ants to sugar. I don't know how this happened, and do you have any culinary explanation for that? Like, why does this taste so good for us?
Well, first of all, I can say that it is a very diverse vegetable. It has although it has its own flavor. If you introduce and if you add it to any dish, it will try to enhance the flavor of the main dish. Apart from lending the dish a little bit of body and flavor to it by itself. As you drew up that thing with the government in Uttar Pradesh doing, if you remember, I do not know. Okay, most of you guys might have been running around in your nappies of the time I am talking about right now. But during the 90s, there was this huge rise in the prices of onions and tomatoes.
It is still happening, and this is again that relevant thing which you are talking about. I'm cutting across party lines so that we are not we are not accused of like being biased towards one party or other, but this is what the price rise of onions you're talking about. It still is very relevant, and this is I think 2019 if I'm not wrong, that the sitting government had to announce a focus on tomato, potato and onions, and of all places in Bengaluru to placate the hurt due to the rising prices. But yeah, you were coming towards how potato went to rule our taste buds.
Yes. By the sheer variety of which the potato can be used, it can become a filling. As per samosa we were talking about, there is a very famous dish in Banaras or Uttar Pradesh. It's called Banarasi Aloo Dum.
Yeah, I've had it.
Yes.
Fortunately, I travel a lot and I've had it.
So it can be used there as a main dish itself. It can be also used as a company. My mouth is watering thinking about all these dishes, man.
I'm just thinking about when does Jhudi Bhaja come in, right? Because it is really tough to explain, and it is like the jewel of potato food items, right? Like I don't know how many of people will understand. So the Jhudi Bhaja is the Jaipuri bhindi of potatoes in a way, right? Yes. So let me pull it up and please keep talking about the potato rule of our taste buds. Yeah.
Yes. Coming back to West Bengal and the east side of India, we have something called Jhudi Bhaja, as ChillTox had mentioned. It is an extremely simple dish, but extremely hard to master.
And even harder to forget. Oh, I mean, come on.
Harder to forget. Exactly. So, then samosa is there, of course. Then this is Jhudi Bhaja. So then you go to the western side of the country. What we have, the thali system of having food. Potatoes will be there, potatoes
Always.
in some form or the other. It will be there. I mean, the sheer diversity of the vegetable cannot be denied by anybody. And as I said, any other vegetable has not impacted the human civilization as much as potatoes. I mean, learning lessons from the past, it has always been there. I mean, and let me touch upon one small topic as well. But potatoes, as ChillTox had earlier mentioned, that this phantom of becoming fat by eating potatoes, that, my dear friends, it doesn't exist. It's how you eat, it's how you cook them, and what is your day-to-day physical activity after eating the meal which you had. Please do not blame potatoes. It is not coming out from the sheer love which we share for potatoes, but the misconception or the sheer tunnel vision of people not being able to research upon certain facts and just plainly blabbing about something which is not true. Oh yes, certainly.
All our support to the potatoes.
Absolutely. So, ChillTox, if a small suggestion can be made, if you can change the I to we. We all.
Of course, we all love potatoes, right? Yes. Divided by boundaries, countries, religion, but we all love potatoes. I'll do that. Don't worry. I'll do that as soon as I can. So I think we have expressed explicit love for our potatoes by now, and by now I think people must have gotten why we love it. So I really hope in the comment section we do get some love for potatoes from different regions of the country, and as you asked for it, there you go. I think it has come on. Yeah. So we all love potatoes, and I hope you guys loved our explicit explanations for the same, and I don't know, we couldn't have expressed our love better for potatoes than this, I think, and really hoping to see comments from different parts of India and society about potatoes. Share by your closing remarks, and then we close this stream. Before you give us some closing remarks, thank you so much for taking some time out of your exceedingly busy schedule. I know that it is like really work heavy right now, but thank you so much. Your closing remarks, and we end it. Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you so much for ChillTox for having me, giving me this opportunity to share our mutual love for food, especially potatoes. I hope we will do much more episodes in the future, trying to reach out as far as we can. Shout out to all the people who are working very, very hard so that this pandemic might end. We hope that it does. Especially shout out to all the frontliners, to the health workers. You guys are amazing. For all the other guys who are watching this, please do stay safe. Try to express your love in the coming days and support in the coming days to ChillTox.
Thank you your loved ones as well. To your loved ones as well.
Yes.
Because it is the right time to speak. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. If you loved what we did, please support us. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. Please share it with your friends. We'll see you soon with some other topic. I'll try to bring Chef back again and again. And till that time, goodbye and take care from both of us. Signing off.
Thanks.